my colleagues, Randy Schultz and Dan Sweeney. Judge Damico, Karen Velez, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Let's make the best available use of the time. We've all read your questionnaires and we've researched your backgrounds and your experience. My first question is for Karen Velez. Karen, why take on a sitting judge?
So as you know, I'm more than qualified. I've been an attorney for 16 years. I have the legal experience, the work ethic needed to run county court. And the only way to beat a sitting judge is either to be appointed by our governor or to run. And so I'm running because I have the experience and the work ethic needed for the seat I'm running, which is county court, the people's court. As a former public defender, you probably saw my experience. The law is my third career. I've been an attorney for 16 years. And as an attorney, I've litigated every kind of legal matter, starting at the public defender's office, where I was in court daily, handling every kind of case from juvenile, mental health, misdemeanor, all of that, all the way up through successfully litigating bench trials, jury trials. And so I'm qualified. I'm running because I'm qualified. I believe in our justice system and our legal system. And this is how our country should work and our elections work. We have to run for office.
Is it correct that initially your intention was to run against Judge Marnie Bryson and you changed your plans?
So I believe that we need more women on the bench. To answer your question, yes, I initially ran against, I put in against Marnie Bryson. I'd been doing research on it so I've been looking at running for office since 2017. I've been to courses and classes on how to run for office with the Women's Foundation, with Women on the Run. And so I looked initially at that race, and she had already been scrutinized for years, as I'm sure you know. And because of her legal matters, she was smart and sought endorsements and situated herself where she had already been saying that she was the victim of some political circles, if you will, and situations. And so she had handled that and had women's groups aligned strongly behind her.
Okay. Let me ask you this question. Have you ever appeared in front of Judge Paul Damico?
No.
Okay. You said in your questionnaire to us that I should quote it directly. This incumbent has never been chosen or elected by the voters of Palm Beach County. Palm Beach County residents deserve elected judges chosen by the voters, close quote. As you know, I don't pretend to be lecturing either one of you. That's not my position, but we have a hybrid in Florida, a mixture of elected and appointed county court and trial court judges. Karen, that statement suggests to me that you think all judges should be elected. Am I right?
No, it doesn't. I'm speaking specifically to the seat that I'm running for and the county that I work and live in. And so in what you quoted, although correctly quoted, and thank you, an excellent question, what I'm speaking to is that in Palm Beach County and historically what you're seeing is more appointments. Judges are retiring and the governor is being allowed to appoint them as opposed to being elected by the voters. So I'm speaking to simply the fact that in Palm Beach County, there hasn't been a vacant seat since 2018. There's only been appointments. That's what I'm speaking to in that quote. Thank you.
Okay, very good. I've got a couple of questions for you, Judge Damico, but first I'm going to just open the floor and ask you to respond to anything your opponent has just said, if you have any response.
May 3rd, there was an Hispanic bar event, and that was shortly after my opponent announced against me. While we were at that very nice event, a number of the Hispanic bar members came up to my wife and I. We were both in attendance, and they were very surprised because the question of the day was, why would somebody get out of one race and go into another race literally a half hour before the deadline closed? And the people were saying that my opponent was basically saying that she was threatened. Now, I wouldn't be stating this to you, gentlemen, at this time, unless it went past hearsay. I had the pleasure, my wife and I, of meeting my opponent that particular evening. And my wife asked the question you just asked: have you ever been in front of my husband? Do you know what that court is all about? And my opponent said, no, he's fantastic. I know that. Everybody says that. And I thought that was an odd answer. And so then I explained, I said, well, don't you think that we should keep effective, good, caring judges on the bench? And before I could finish the sentence, she explained that she was threatened and that her husband told her to get out of the first race and to find another race. So I'm only telling you this, gentlemen, because it was said to me, my wife and I, it was hearsay before we had heard that. And I'm a little surprised to hear the answer that you got tonight.
I follow that, I think, fairly closely, but I'm not clear, and maybe my colleagues aren't clear, who allegedly issued this threat?
That's a question you would have to ask my opponent. I don't know much about it other than that statement was made to the both of us and to some members of the bar. So that would be a question I think better suited for the person who got it, if in fact she did.
Karen, can you comment on that?
I can. So I don't know if Judge Damico is taking it out of context. What the discussion that we had was the rigors and the stress of running for office. We had a, do you know what's involved? You know, the money, the work, that kind of stuff, that kind of conversation. I was not threatened. I know the rumor mills and the whisper campaigns have been saying that kind of stuff, and it came specifically from Judge Damico's campaign. It came specifically from Rebecca Shelton. It is false. What we spoke about was running a clean campaign. We did very candidly about running a clean campaign, and we were inches from each other's face. And I told Judge Damico that I would never speak ill of him, that this is a county court seat that is for the people's court. And I believe I am qualified, more than qualified. I have the work experience, the work ethic necessary for the people's court. And I wished him a good race and a good campaign. So the whisper campaign and rumor mill about being threatened, it came specifically from one side. And it's false.
I see. Okay. Maybe we'll come back to this, but I want to defer, hand the questioning off to my colleague, Randy Schultz.
Yes, sir.
Karen, do you see any problem with Judge Damico's record that would make you a better candidate aside from gender? You said we need more men on the bench, but aside from that, do you see any reason that he shouldn't be reelected or elected, as you put it?
So I'm not running on my gender. I'm running on my qualifications. And so I don't see it in terms of your question, in terms of it should just be that, you know, the person sitting there, if they're doing an okay job, if they're doing well, if they're doing fine, you know, whatever it might be, they should automatically be in that seat. It's not a lifetime appointment. And so what I will say is county courts specifically, because what you're dealing with is working class, middle class, lower class, it's known as the people's court because it's where—
Yeah, sure. If I may, I understand
Okay.
all that. But if you look at the bar poll, which I have found in 30 plus years writing about the courts in Palm Beach County, tends to reflect what credible people tell me are the best judges. He's got, if not the best rating, right in the top 2 or 3. So is there any performance metric that would make you the better candidate? We acknowledge your experience that you talked about and all like that. I think as a judge might say, the court will stipulate that you are qualified. The question is, why do you think you're more qualified than he?
Because of my work life experience, my work ethic, and because county court is in need of people that roll up their sleeves and get to work. People that
Okay, if I may though, do you have any indication or any evidence that Judge Damico does not roll up his sleeves, literally or figuratively, and get to work?
So to answer your question, no, I do not. However, what I would say is that, as you know, there's only one way to be on the bench, and that's to run in Palm Beach County. And I am more qualified. And I would put it this way. there are times in our life, right? This is an editorial board where you look around and you read the room and you realize that there should be change, that we're in a moment, and the only way for someone to get somewhere is either a political appointment or run. And so, although, again, a fine jurist, Mr. Damico is a fine jurist, we want to offer the voters a different choice. We want to offer the voters a good.
Okay, I get it, a choice, but you meet a voter,
right?
and you say, here is the reason, right here, this one reason why you should pick me. I'm better than him. What is that? Because you are the challenger, and you know the way editorial boards tend to look at this is we like to see persuasive evidence that an incumbent should lose his or her seat.
I look at that voter. Thank you for that question. I look at that voter, Mr. Schultz, in the eyes, and I say, I'm qualified as an attorney of 16 years, and the bench, the government, our local judicial system benefits, and there's more confidence in our political offices, in our local government, in our judges, when the judge reflects the local population, when it reflects the people from all sorts of diverse backgrounds, including working class backgrounds. So I look at that person and say, I'm qualified, and our system benefits when you vote for someone that is qualified and that reflects the community.
So it's strictly a diversity choice as you see it. That's the reason.
I see it as
That's what you just said.
I see it as a merit-based, qualified-based, and everyone, including the community, feels better when our government reflects its community. That's how
Have you ever applied for an appointment through the Judicial Nominating Commission?
I have.
And
And my
how'd that go?
And I applied again, and that's why I'm running.
Have you been a finalist yet?
No.
How many? You applied twice?
No, I believe I applied either 4 or 5 times. It's in the questionnaire. I believe it's 4 or 5
Yeah,
times.
okay. I couldn't remember from
I
it.
believe
so
it's
thank
5.
you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Randy. We'll come back to you. Dan, you want to jump in? I've got some questions if you want me to keep going, but it's up to you.
Real quick, Mr. Damico.
Yes, sir.
You're this is going back a ways for you now, but you switched in your earlier career from the state attorney's office to the public defender's office, and you know, on the resume that looks like just a move up from vice chief to felony chief. Was there anything else behind that move other than the bump up there from vice to felony?
It wasn't a bump up from vice to felony. I finished up the state's attorney's office as the chief of the vice and narcotics unit. The year was 1997, and it was probably one of the hardest professional decisions to do. And the reason why I made the decision to leave the prosecutor's office, because I was enjoying that work and having a lot of fun doing that work in 1997, is because my ultimate goal for many, many years, my dream, if you will, was to sit specifically as a county court judge. And I knew I needed to round out my experience. Being all prosecutor, unbalanced, is not what a judge should be. So I left that office and worked as an assistant public defender for 5 years, seeing the law from a completely different paradigm. It balanced me out as a professional, as a person as well. And it made me a much more balanced professional, and I believe a much more balanced judge. And it makes me a better judge to have that balance.
So the main reason for you moving from the state attorney's office to the public defender's office was looking forward to wanting to be a judge?
That was definitely rounding myself out professionally, so I would have a better chance either before a JNC Because I know when I go before a JNC, being one-sided certainly is a mark against you. So, or if eventually,
that depends who's picking.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. And how political the board might be in any given time, and that changes and has changed. But I agree with you, Mr. Schultz.
Judge, can you give us, I want to ask Karen a similar question, but can you give us a case that comes to mind where you think that even though they're generally less complex in county court, where you think you had a really tough decision that you are proud of?
Lots of them. DUI cases. You become an expert in trying DUI cases. I did as a prosecutor and as a defense attorney, but certainly trying literally hundreds of cases. We try the majority of the cases, that criminal cases that we try in county court, are driving under the influence.
Right.
And sometimes they're bench trials. Most of the time they're jury trials. And I'm just very proud of DUI work in general. I take it very seriously. Especially if somebody comes to me with a prior, you'll find that my pre-trial rulings, when somebody has a prior DUI, some people might consider harsher than the norm, because I consider that if somebody has a first DUI and then has a subsequent one, drinking and driving has been going on a lot. And in my opinion, that person is a ticking time bomb to get into an automobile accident, hurting themselves or hurting another member of the public. So I take it as a personal responsibility to the public to make sure that there is that pretrial restraint for repeat offenders. But to answer your question, sir, DUIs in general, I'm very proud of the work that I've done on those cases over the years.
And
I also do, I don't know if you gentlemen know, but for the last 4 years, I've also do domestic violence works in the area of repeat violence, dating violence, and stalking. And my work there, as far as that question of being proud, is the protection of people who lose the sanctity of their life. I have people that come in on a weekly basis for stalking, for instance, and no matter who they are, a man or a woman, if they are truly being stalked pursuant to what's required in the statute, those people are miserable to the point where they've lost their sanctity of life. I, through my rulings, and I, through my restraining orders, and I, through my contempt powers, if those restraining orders are violated, bring back, and I've brought back sanctity of life to a lot of people. And that I am most proud of, because that's everything.
Karen, why don't you tell us about a case you had in county court that you're proud of?
So like Judge Damico, there's quite a bit of body of work that I'm proud of over the last 16 years as an attorney. Domestic violence injunctions on behalf of clients, women and men seeking protection against harm. I'm absolutely proud of that. And the proudest cases I've had are very serious, probably sexual battery, in terms of being torn about taking the case and handling them and having to deal with the allegations of molestation, that kind of stuff with my clients. And then having a verdict where the state did not prove its case beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt, dealing with that and being successful in defending clients charged with cases. There was one case I represented a gentleman, Mr. Bouvet, and the state referred to him as the candy man because he had a candy van and sold candy out of it. And, I believed he was wholeheartedly innocent. And those cases are tough because jurors don't want to serve. Dealing and speaking about these kinds of cases is tough. But voir dire, if you do it well, the jurors are intent on doing the right thing. We have smart jurors. And so I'm proud of cases where I made the state, either prove its case, upheld our Constitution, and my client was found not guilty. And beyond that, there's Enrique Cruz. I don't know if I put it on my questionnaire. Enrique Cruz was someone charged with injuring someone else, and it was a self-defense, stand your ground motion that was denied, that went to trial, and my client was found not guilty. It was shown that the other two assailants attacked him.
Karen, because as you both have discussed, because the county court is the so-called people's court, people do represent themselves, what you folks in the legal profession call pro se litigants. Do you have any idea what percentage of people who come before a county court judge in Palm Beach County, what percentage of the litigants are representing themselves?
So I think that it depends on whether you're talking about like the criminal or the civil division. So I think that there's a distinction to.
I'm talking mainly about civil. I'm sorry to interrupt. Civil, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in terms of civil, I don't have the exact numbers, but I would think that especially because of COVID, the last 2 years, I believe it's probably gone up quite a bit. The pro se, the population of litigants representing themselves without counsel and pro se. And I would say that it's probably more than half, more than 50%, especially in light of COVID, are pro se for civil actions.
I want to ask Judge Damico the same question. He's in the courtroom every day. So what
Yes.
is Ms. Velez correct?
No, but she's not off by much. We just changed the thresholds. Small claims court, or Judge Judy court, if you will, is now has been raised from $5,000 to $8,000. So if you have a case under $8,000 in value, you're going to be in front of a judge like myself, and you do not need a lawyer. That's the whole reason behind that threshold, is that people can come in, have access to the courts, because a lot of these cases are small in value, and if you were to go out and retain counsel, it would be cost prohibitive. So the percentage of people, I would say, is greater than 96, 97% that come into our court. And I love small claims court. It's a wonderful place to be. A lot of times you can get involved with working these cases out. You have wonderful mediators, volunteer mediators, who I've kept as friends over the years, because these people on a volunteer basis look at most of your cases. They try to work out dispositions. But I'm sorry, I'm going off base. To answer your question, sir, the majority, 95+% are pro se.
Okay. Judge, your biography, I'm interested in asking you a question.
Sure.
And I'm going by recollection of reading your questionnaire. You've been on the county court bench in Palm Beach County since 2001.
Correct, sir.
Which means, if I have my history right, you were appointed by Jeb Bush.
Correct, sir.
And you've never sought appointment to the circuit court.
I've been asked that question over the 20 years over and over again, and my answer is absolutely not, because my dream job was always to be, as I said, specifically on county court. Matter of fact, when the circuit judgeships used to come up for those first 5 or 6 years, people wanting to run to them would call me, "Are you putting your name in?" I would say, "No, I am happy where I am." County court is well suited for my personality and what I love to do. I love it because it is, in fact, the people's court.
In your opinion, over the 20 years you've been a judge in Palm Beach County, is the Judicial Nominating Commission working effectively? That is, recommending the most capable, the most qualified candidates, or is it, as it is in a number of circuits, politicized by whichever faction is in power in the courthouse and so forth?
I think they've done in Palm Beach County. I've heard that in other circuits, but in this circuit, I think they have done a wonderful job. And of course, those commissions morph over time. Positions are changed and whatnot. But the best proof, sir, would be, look at our judiciary. Our judiciary in Palm Beach County is one of the best circuits in the state. I would venture to say that probably half, or even more than half, have been through the appointment process, and we have a wonderful embodiment of judges here in Palm Beach County. So that I think is proof is in the pudding.
Karen Velez, would you agree with that the JNC in Palm Beach County works pretty well?
I would agree that the bench in Palm Beach County is absolutely better than most and excellent. I would not agree that the process is not politicized. What the evidence suggests and the facts are is that, obviously we know all the last judges on the bench, the last 9 have been appointments, and there's a specific group that they're a part of, and that doesn't mean that these are not qualified, excellent jurists. I'm simply saying that we also have excellent elected judges. If you look at the last elections, 2018, Judge Cheeseman, Judge Zuckerman, those are excellent choices. And that was the last time that there were vacant seats. So I agree with Judge Damico. We have some excellent judges that But that doesn't mean that the JNC process couldn't. First of all, it doesn't even have 9 members. It's had 7 members for the last couple of years. So it's not complete. It's definitely incomplete. And 2 of them are not, 2 of the JNC commission members are not lawyers, which is fine. But if you look at the numbers, many are appointments, meaning the JNC commission members are appointments by the governor.
As originally designed, the JNC was supposed to have 3 non-lawyers on each commission, was it not?
Say that, I'm sorry, repeat the question.
As originally designed, weren't the JNC supposed to have 3 non-lawyers as members? So having 2 on, is that really that big a deal?
No, I guess I'm focusing on the fact that it's incomplete in terms of there've been 7 for the last couple of years as opposed to 9.
Okay.
And I'm simply pointing out that of those 7, there's some groups lacking. You know,
yeah, the lack of a complete set of 9 is a problem, but the fact that there's non-lawyers on the commission is kind of as intended, right?
Correct. It works out to be a large percentage when you consider that there's only 7. Is I guess.
And the group you were referring to, I assume, is the Federalist Society.
I think that's a fact, Mr. Schultz, that I can agree.
Oh, it's
with
quite
that.
well documented.
It is well documented, and I don't think it's a secret. Correct.
And are you a member of the Federalist Society?
I'm not.
Okay.
Karen, because you've spoken about the, and it's not on your questionnaire, it wasn't asked, frankly, either, but because you've talked about the need for a more diverse bench, I think it's relevant to ask. I'm interested. Tell us your ethnic background.
I'm Hispanic. I'm Puerto Rican. I was born in the Bronx and raised, you call us a New York Rican. So I would go to Puerto Rico in the summers. I actually went to kindergarten in Puerto Rico, but I was raised in New York.
Okay.
So do we assume that Justice Sotomayor is your role model?
You know that we're not allowed to answer questions like that because unfortunately the canons are very strict, but I would say that Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Thurgood Marshall, these are excellent role models, but I follow Judge Sotomayor coming from the same area and being born in the same area and backgrounds. I follow her closely.
Saved baseball in 1995.
Yes.
So, Judge, tell us a little bit about how, if somebody from one of the judiciary committees in the legislature came and talked to you and asked for changes that you think could help county court, what would you say?
I would say that we definitely need more judges. We need judges to be certified, and then the legislation to come through with the appropriations for the spots. We in the past have gotten certifications for both county and circuit judges, and
right.
Unfortunately they haven't got the appropriations to open up those divisions. Right now I'm presently in Delray Beach, and we're like a MASH unit. Our job there is to resolve as much of the criminal caseload as possible before it goes downtown and gets into one of the trial divisions. Before COVID, it wasn't. We would sometimes have 200 cases scheduled in the morning. That was on a daily basis. So we deal with a lot of cases. I know our circuit bench, especially the family bench, is inundated with cases, and they are backlogged. So I would think both for county court, and I would tell the legislature, we're not allowed to talk to them, by the way, like this, but hypothetically, I would tell the legislature to also think about our circuit courts, because it's very necessary that we need more judgeships at that level.
And there still are no jury trials in the Delray courthouse, right?
That's correct. That's correct. Prior to going to Delray, my number was up. There was really nobody that lived in that area. I happen to live in Jupiter, and so I was the last person that wanted to go, but the chief judge said, it's your turn, so go. So I went, and biting and kicking and screaming, but it really is a wonderful courthouse. The people there are amazing. The court staff that I work with, whether it's the interpreters, the deputies, the attorneys from both offices, my JA, our courtroom is just wonderful because of the people that make it that courtroom. And the courtroom is not very conventional, and it's unique in a couple of ways. But if you ask that question, I'd be happy to tell you how we're different.
Go ahead.
we're not just people will tell you that we're a classroom as well as a courtroom. I've been an adjunct professor for more years than I've been a judge, and I teach all areas of the law for that college. And from 20 years ago, I brought my teaching experience, because I love to teach, into the courtroom. County court, one of the reasons why I stay there is we get all of the new lawyers right out of law school, or a lot of young lawyers, and they're teachable, and most of them want to be taught. And I've started a program 20 years ago for mentoring these young lawyers, and the ones that want it. And they say that they love it and that they benefited from it. And I see them years later, and, you know, they're doing important things now, and they're in the firms or trying, you know, murder cases. It's such a thrill for me to be able to have mentored them at the beginning of their careers and to watch them progress in their careers. So we're not just a courtroom, we're a classroom, and that makes us unique. The other thing is how the courtroom is controlled. Judge Judy controls her courtroom with an iron fist. People see that on TV from 20 years ago. Matter of fact, I was asked this question in the J&C: what would make your courtroom different? And I said, it would be how it's controlled, how it's run. I want to run a courtroom that's based upon a high principle of compassion and respect for the judge. No, not just for the judge. That doesn't work. It's got to be for every person that works in that courtroom on a day-to-day basis, for every person that comes in, member of the citizenry, the member of the public. Nobody can be not seen in that courtroom. During COVID, we had young people coming in, washing our computers and whatnot. They were acknowledged. Everybody gets acknowledged in the courtroom, whether or not you're the affluent or whether or not you're the homeless person coming in before us. The utmost respect and compassion for everybody, and it's required to be given to everybody and also to be received. When I see that it's anything less than that, and it's not often, I get involved and I correct it. What it has done, and I'll finish quickly, I know I'm taking too long. It has created in our courtroom over the years a very positive working environment. The public says it, but in particular, I get compliments all the time from the bar, from the lawyers. Judge, we love getting the case when we know it's in your division, because it's such a wonderful place, or nice place, or easy place to come to. There's no better compliment than I can get as a judge. I'm very proud of how we run the courtroom, and it is our courtroom.
Thank you. Okay. In the few minutes we have remaining, I do want to ask you, Judge Damico and Karen. I'll certainly give you a full opportunity to comment as well, but we do want to discuss briefly an article that appeared in the Palm Beach Post, and I'll summarize it. The article says that a supporter or supporters of Karen Velez have filed a complaint against Judge Damico with the Judicial Qualifications Commission in the midst of this campaign. That's very serious stuff in Florida, accusing Judge Damico of overstating his support from the law enforcement community. And so I want to ask you first, Judge. You're the target of this complaint. What your reaction is and what you say about the complaint itself.
It's very unfortunate. The complaint dealt with the verbiage of our law enforcement being interpreted that Judge Damico was saying he owns law enforcement, rather than what it was meant. Our law enforcement means the law enforcement of everybody, including my opponent. It's very unfortunate that it got to that level. The first thing I did was obviously call my consultant who made that ad. And she explained to me that has been done in many, many campaigns, the same verbiage. And I've gotten on and checked and certainly confirmed that. My second call was to a very good lawyer that we probably all know, Mr. Scarola. Mr. Scarola wrote a letter that sums up this whole situation. I would love to read it. It would take about 30 seconds or less to give you an idea of what this is all about.
Go ahead.
This was sent to my opponent, her consultant as well. It has come to, this is on his letterhead, it has come to my attention through a recent reference in the Palm Beach Post that a complaint has been filed by you or on your behalf with the Judicial Qualifications Commission against Judge Paul Damico, whose re-election is being contested by Ms. Velez. It also appears that this JQC filing has been inappropriately leaked to the press in an obvious attempt to use the accusations to political advantage. I have taken the initiative to write this letter because after nearly 50 years of practice in our local courts, I have a very personal stake in maintaining the quality of our local judiciary. From that perspective, I am troubled by Ms. Velez's decision to attempt to unseat a highly respected and well-qualified incumbent judge. My concern is compounded by resort to campaign tactics that appear questionable at best. If the post's description of the allegations against Judge Damico are accurate, the assertions of ethical violations, if not completely baseless, seem to be a far stretch and highly unlikely to warrant even a probable cause determination by the JQC. I urge you both to carefully reconsider the approach you have taken in this campaign and to avoid any further negative attacks. Knowledgeable observers are sure to view them as nothing but an effort to distract from whatever deficiencies exist in Ms. Velez's own qualifications.
Judge, have you seen a copy of the complaint?
Yes, I saw just a snippet. My consultant gave me a snippet on my phone. I haven't seen the whole thing. And gentlemen, it's very inappropriate for, I have never had an experience as an attorney or as a judge with a JQC issue, but the judges are not supposed to know if there is an allegation against them. That's very important. Because this was leaked to the press, it came to my attention because there's a campaign. But judges never know that there is an allegation against them unless the JQC finds PC and then does an investigation, and then word would go out. People in the know, such as Mr. Scarola, thinks it will certainly never come to that point. And of course, I hope the same.
Well, I have this question for you, Karen Velez, and that is that, as I think any disinterested observer might also ask, as far as we know, and we know pretty clearly, Judge Paul Damico has an unblemished record of 20 years of service in the bench in Palm Beach County, and the timing of this complaint at this time does suggest the possibility of a political motivation. So what do you say to that?
I would say that that's false. Let's step back a little bit because Judge Damico has probably been speaking in the last several minutes on this question and the last question. Okay. To address the JQC complaint, the allegations were that during the course of 2 days, essentially, the campaign, meaning Rebecca Shelton and Judge Paul Damico, the campaign, because as judges and candidates were responsible for the campaign, that they put out logos, not that they were supported by a certain group, but like a sitting judge in, I believe, the 12th Circuit, Judge Brian Iten, I-T-E-N, what the campaign did was they couched the language, the banner, the way it was worded, that Judge Damico is supported by the men and women who keep us safe. In another post on Facebook and in an email, Judge Damico is endorsed and honored to have the support of, again, this language, the men and women that keep us safe. And it was done, and it was this pro-law enforcement, this implication over the course of a couple days, 4 to 5 posts and emails, essentially saying and implying that, one, Judge Damico would be biased or is pro-law enforcement. And as judges, we must remain fair and impartial. And I understand Judge D'Amico's point, which is that he did not know and did not realize it. And I believe in that article that you quoted, Rebecca Shelton wanted to imply that she removed it to make me feel better or make our campaign feel better. No, she removed it because the judicial canons require that there can be no implication that a judge will be biased and impartial to one group, whoever that group is. Not green people, not yellow people, not law enforcement. And so when you have this language endorsed by the people we depend on, endorsed by the people that keep us safe, and that's what their campaign started with. It was the first 2 days of the Facebook and email blast that went out. That repeated language, join our first responders, all of that implied that Judge Damico is supported by the men and women that we trust, and the opponent, Karen Velez, is not. Judge Damico supports law enforcement and the people that keep us safe. And unfortunately, in the case of Judge Brian Iten, what happened is the defense bar decided that they needed to recuse him from tons of cases because he was pro-law enforcement, because there was clear evidence of that. So the campaign removed it because their advertisement, their campaign, violated, and the rules are very strict and precise, the canons. And so these went over and beyond what they should be, and they fixed them and changed them. And I'm sure that the JQC and any review of this will show that the right thing was done, but there was an implication of bias towards a certain group, and especially in county court, it can't be like that.
So do you think this campaign literature, separate from Judge Damico's record as a jurist, do you think the campaign literature calls into question his objectivity in cases involving law enforcement?
The campaign literature initially over the course of May 10th and May 11th absolutely went outside the bounds of the very precise and strict JQC canons. I believe that there was an implication, actual statements, language, verbiage in the campaign literature and advertisements showing a pro-law enforcement and a voter should vote for Judge Damico in order to keep us safe. We're not safe if we don't vote for Judge Damico, and I believe that's been changed, yes.
Okay, and did you know about the complaint before it was filed? Did you have any role in its creation and its presentation?
So I don't know what is going to come out of the JQC investigation. I believe they're due, I did call the JQC earlier this month. I believe they're due to convene in a couple of weeks, so I don't want to comment on that. But I would like to have a little bit of equal time with regard to the last question that Judge Damico talked about, his entire background. And I believe the question was on funding, and he talked about mentoring other, attorneys and students and all of that. I wanted to address just a couple of things, if I may.
Sure.
So my position is that I bring a unique perspective based on my experience, my work backgrounds, and I think that that's relevant. I've also mentored and taught at the high school level in the community, interns, people that come to the professional legal community in my office, throughout. And my background does include a background in education. I taught psychology and AP Psych. I bring a wealth of experience with my 16 years as an attorney, and I understand Judge Damico has been and was appointed 21 years ago, and a lot has changed in 21 years. But I understand that he chose to remain in a court that there's been, no jury trials, and and essentially has remained in the People's Court for many years. And this ties into a rumor. So just as Judge Damico alleged that the rumor of my being threatened was something that we could discuss, I believe that he opened the door to a rumor that that came about early in the campaign, which was that not just Judge Kastrenakis was retiring, but that Judge Damico was retiring as well. And when the rumors of Judge Kastrenakis, which is the other race, which he did retire, came out, the evidence, what was being touted was the Palm Beach Bar releases, it's common knowledge, a seniority of judges list. And when you look at the list, Judge Damico, there's Edward Garrison, Kathleen Kroll. His name is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's the sixth name on the list. I'm going to just show you so that you see it. And why is this relevant? This is relevant because it was evidence of the fact that what we would have is another seat that would be that the judge would remain in the seat, refile, pay the filing fee, stay, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. The common pattern, the last 9 judges in Palm Beach County were appointed, 9 since the last election, which was 2018. We've had 9 appointments. And what we're seeing is a pattern where they're all being appointed by the governor. And in this particular case, there was a rumor that Judge Kastrenakis was going to retire, which he adamantly denied. And there was a rumor that Judge Damico was going to retire. And when you look at the list of seniority of judges, he is the county court judge up now in this election with the most seniority. And that's why I chose to run in this race, not because of a threat or not because of other rumors, but because just like Judge Kastronakis, who's no longer in this race, Judge Damico was also going to retire in a couple of years and seek to have a protege or mentee appointed, just as Judge Kastronakis was trying to do.
Judge Damico, is that true?
Absolutely not. I take an oath to you gentlemen and an oath to the people of Palm Beach County that retirement was never in the question. I for professional reasons and certainly for personal reasons, I have 2 young men in college. Not only that, my next dream is to be a senior judge. And in order to be a senior judge, you have to finish out your term. So this hearing that I was going to leave early was never, ever an issue, completely false and untrue. And I make an oath to the people of Palm Beach County that when I get reelected, I will be there for every day of those 6 years. If I may answer something about the JQC, if you would allow me, I'll be quick.
Sure.
My opponents seem to put the blame or the responsibility on my consultant, Ms. Shelton. I do not pass responsibility on to Ms. Shelton. And I just want you to know that we both take responsibility for the ad that we put out. We did remove it. We didn't want to remove it. I hope that you take the time to read it. There was discussion to leave it up because there is absolutely nothing unethical about it. But the reason why I decided to remove it was only for one reason, and that was out of total respect for the JQC. And that was the only reason. I wanted them to know that just in case there was a 1% chance that it was too much, the respect for the JQC was there. And, it was the first endorsements that I got. I've since been endorsed by the National Organization of Women. If they were the first endorsement, I would have put that on, that body of people, women, trust that I'm going to fight for their equality and protect their rights in court. It just was the timing of who came out with the first endorsement.
Okay, a very quick follow-up question, since you sort of opened the door to it, but I think it's important, since you're accepting equal responsibility. Before that mail piece went out, or whatever the literature that had that language about keeping us safe, the police stuff, the language, did you personally approve the verbiage, the wording, Judge?
We have an agreement that anything that is typed up on the behalf of our campaign is approved by myself. There's been so many things that we have gone through. I don't remember specifically that piece of bail. Of course, I read it after we found out that there was a problem with it, but I take responsibility for it because that's what I have to do.
Okay. We're past our allotted time, but in an abundance of fairness, Karen Velez, I'm going to certainly give you the last word. Judge Damico just spoke for several minutes, so if there's anything you want to respond to or rebut or say on your behalf, you'll have the last word right now.
So judges must avoid even the appearance of impropriety. And this was more than one email, and this was more than one Facebook post, and this was on the Keep Judge Damico Facebook page. So it was there. There were several. I want to say that I appreciate you having me. Thank you for having me. Please, at the very least, look at my background and look at why I would bring something different to the bench, which is not just my gender, not just my ethnicity, but a diversity of backgrounds as an educator in insurance defense, in this profession, representing the poor every single day for well over 10 years. I was in court daily, and I successfully litigated from the simplest case through the toughest case, the poor to now the middle class in civil practice. I bring a wealth of experience to the Palm Beach County bench, to the People's Court. And so I ask you to offer your readers, I know you're going to endorse, but let's not just, rubber stamp. Let's try something and give voters another option, something else. Someone that has the work ethic, is going to roll up their sleeves and has proven they can handle an efficient courtroom, having been a public defender with a high caseload for many, many years.
Okay. All right. Thank you both for being with us this afternoon very much. Really appreciate it. Best of luck to both of you. Dan, Randy, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.